Well, joining us now is Florida Senator Rick Scott. And Senator, very grateful for having you on today. And as you heard there, the situation in Gaza at the moment is getting pretty harsh for the Palestinians. But the big news this week is that President Biden is withholding weapons from Israel. What message do you think that sends both to Israel, and also what message does that send to Hamas?
Well, first off, it's a horrible message for Israel. I was over in Israel about 6 weeks ago. I met with the Prime Minister, and I met with Gallup, the Minister of Defense. I met with IDF, and they don't have a choice. Hamas is, the last battalions are in Rafah. If they're going to destroy Hamas, which they have to do for any security, they have to go in. And they've said they're going to do everything they can to get the civilians out. I went to Kfar Aza, half a mile from Gaza. I walked the same streets I was in 2019, where today 63 people were killed, babies were beheaded, girls were raped, people were burned alive, people were shot just point blank for being one thing, Jewish. I went to the Nova Film Festival area, and I talked to parents that lost their loved ones. Israel has no choice but to destroy Rafah. I've always believed that Biden is unfortunately now part of the pro-Hamas wing of his party. That's all they're worried about is he's worried about winning a presidential election. Thank God for President Trump. He is one of the most pro-Israel presidents in our history, and I hope he wins so we can get somebody in there that's going to support Israel. It's disgusting. If money that goes to Gaza is going to Hamas, whether we like it or not, it's not going to the Gazans. It's going to help Hamas. Those tunnels were built with money from America. Those missiles or rockets that were sent into Israel, those were money for America.
And I suppose, one of the big news this week is that President Biden is withholding weapons from Israel. But Republicans are heavily critical about this. But you have to remember that Reagan did the same thing back in 1981. The New York Times saying, Mr. Reagan used the power of American arms several times to influence Israeli war policy at different points, ordering warplanes and cluster munitions to be delayed or withheld. So what do you make of that? I mean, I'm sure you were a fan of President Reagan, but how do you explain the difference from what happened in 1981 and what President Biden is doing today?
Well, we have to live in reality. Today, here's what we know. The last battalions of Hamas are primarily in Rafah, all right? Israel has no choice but to destroy Hamas, all right? Egypt, unfortunately, won't open up their borders to let the Palestinians or the Gazans come in. I mean, that's frustrating that that's not happening. I don't know why Biden is doing nothing to force Egypt to open up their borders so the civilians, if he was worried about the civilians in Gaza, get Egypt to open their borders and let them come in. But this idea that we are not going to support Israel's ability to destroy Hamas, then how is Israel ever? I mean, how do you ever live in any peace in Israel? And by the way, we still have 8 American hostages. Why doesn't Biden even talk about these hostages? I mean, we have 8 Americans. We have over 30 Americans that were killed. You hardly ever hear anything out of Biden's mouth. Today, where we are today is Israel needs our support. They've got to destroy Hamas. Hamas is in Rafah. So the civilians need to leave. That's what Israel's trying to do. They're doing everything they can to keep civilians safe. But it is interesting. So that's the commitment they've always made to me.
It is interesting that President Biden is doing something that President Reagan did in '81, and yet he has been criticized for it. So I'd like to move on to President Trump's court case at the moment. But I mean, it's interesting to see how both sides did that. President Trump was in court recently, and you were there as well at his alleged hush money trial. And speaking afterwards, you came out, you spoke, and you attacked the judge's daughter, the prosecutor's wife, something that the former president is prohibited from doing himself under a gag order. And I suppose, why did you decide to join the president this week in court and then purposely go after the judge's family?
Well, number one is President Trump is a friend. I've known him for a long time, even before I was Florida's governor. I mean, this is ridiculous what's going on. They're using, the Democrats are using the court system to go after and prosecute criminally a political opponent. I mean, that's a crime. This is wrong. I mean, what the Democrats are doing, they're just thugs trying to stop Trump from being able to run for president. I mean, this has happened. It happened to me. It's happened to a lot of people. But here's the deal. Just think what this is. The Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, sent their number 3 person down to be the lead prosecutor. Does that not sound bad? His wife is a big donor, right? The judge's daughter, judge is a Democrat donor. The judge's daughter is a big Democrat fundraiser. Everybody involved in this, all right, is part of the Democrat machine. And so it looks horrible what's going on here. And then they put a gag order on Trump in the middle of a presidential race. I mean, all they're trying to do is make sure Trump can't go win the presidency. Biden can't run on his record. Trump's got a record. The border was secure. The economy we were good and not at war. Biden's record, the border's wide open. Inflation is unbelievable, and now we're at war around the world. So what Biden's got to try to do is try to silence Trump, and that's what he's trying to do right now.
Yeah, you were very vocal about certainly earlier this week. I wanted to ask also about the campus protests that we're seeing across America at the moment. You were taking part in an Israeli solidarity event, countering these encampments. What do you make of these protests? Also, what do you think that it says about the future of universities here, and perhaps also about the future of young Americans?
Well, first off, these university presidents are complacent in allowing people to spew hatred. Picking one group, Jews, to allow these individuals to come on their campus and be violent, trespass, all these things without immediately saying that has to stop, then you're complacent. We've got to call out hatred and anti-Semitism every day. So what's going on in this country? We're allowing people to spew hatred and not countering it. I'm really disappointed in the mayor of D.C. I mean, when George Washington University asked for support, she said no. She only got rid of the protesters when she had to testify in Congress. So this is a dangerous time. I mean, we need to stand up for Jews in this country. We need to stand up for Israel. And it's a pretty scary time if you're a Jewish student at these universities right now. I've talked to a lot of them. I was at George Washington University, which is where my daughter went. And the Jewish student leaders were not even allowed to meet with the president of the university. Yeah. I mean, this stuff's wrong. Yep,
and the concern is that we're going to start seeing more and more of this as well in the future. Look, Senator Rick Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye, Benjamin.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.